Most of what we create in our life, including the experiences we have at particular ages of life, is determined by our subconscious beliefs. We all do subconscious things that hold us back. The extent to which we can develop systems to purposefully curate and cultivate our subconscious patterns and beliefs determines the extent to which we can exceed our own and other people's expectations for us as we get older. You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 242, Belief Hygiene Affects How You Age. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to the episode today. I'm so happy that you're here. I hope everything is going well in your life. How's your training program? Are you glad to know how a good exercise or training program doesn't need to change to be optimized for a woman in perimenopause or menopause? I think that's so useful to know. It helps you know you're not missing something important or doing something wrong. Today, we're going to talk about bacteria and beliefs, but not about beliefs about bacteria. Well, maybe a little bit. This is something that I've been thinking about lately, and I hope it's useful to you as you think about how what you think and believe affects your experience of life, and also about some easy ideas to help you up-level your life and future by doing some quick and easy regular hygiene practices that already feel familiar. How enjoyably you get through perimenopause and menopause and how well you age in general is dependent on both physical, biological processes and on mental or mindset processes. We talk a lot about influencing our biology to tip the odds in favor of us preventing or drastically delaying all of the common diseases of aging, which I love to do. But today we're going to talk about the mental side of traveling through perimenopause and getting older, because it matters a lot. The father of American psychology, William James, said in his book, Principles of Psychology, in 1890, people tend to become what they think about themselves. Pretty wise. And somewhere around 500 BC, Sun Tzu said, victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. While I don't think it's useful to think of aging like going to war, I do think it's helpful to know that what you think and believe before something happens plays a big role in the way it unfolds. Let's talk about bacteria and viruses, but we don't know nearly enough about our virome and how our viruses affect us. We've talked about this many times in the past, and I have a whole episode about your holobiome. It's episode 149, which is more than just your microbiome of bacteria, but includes viruses and fungi and your whole body rather than just your digestive system. Your holobiome, or ecosystem of viruses and bacteria and fungi that live on and in you, is not visible to you. You can't see it or feel it or sense it, but it affects so much of your experience of life. Like, it has pretty mind-blowing control over who you are, what you want, what you do, how you feel, and your risk of developing certain diseases and conditions. It's kind of insane. And we didn't really even realize that it existed not that long ago. And we're very far from understanding it all right now. We have viruses and bacteria that live on our skin and our hair follicles, our eyelashes, in our noses and mouths, and of course in our digestive system. But we're starting to learn that there are even healthy bacteria, viruses, and fungi living in our brains and other organs that we used to believe were completely sterile. Our skin health and appearance and ability to keep foreign matter out of our body depends on our skin bacteria. Our intestinal health and ability to keep dangerous matter out of our body depends on our gut microbiome. But it does way more than just that. It affects whether we'll absorb nutrients that we need from our food. It plays a really huge role in our mental health. Whether we're depressed or anxious has a lot to do with our gut bacteria. When certain gut bacteria want more of some type of substrate, say sugar, they can make you crave sweets and eat them so that they can grow their population. One of the craziest things is that the bacteria all over you can communicate. It's so weird. Bacteria can make you more or less suspicious or serene. Your bacteria play a huge role in how much you weigh, how much body fat or muscle you have, and how sensitive you are to insulin. Whether you'll have a heart attack or get Alzheimer's or schizophrenia or an autoimmune disease is influenced by your bacteria. So is chronic pain and motivation and aging itself. It's totally crazy. Bacteria have ways to send and receive messages from one another, and also likely with our human organelles that evolved from bacteria millions of years ago, our mitochondria. Our mitochondria are our cellular power plants, and they can receive messages from bacteria. The varieties of bacteria that colonize your digestive tract mostly depend on what you feed them. Intestines that get a lot of fiber and darkly pigmented vegetables and fruits have very different bacteria than intestines that get a lot of sugar and industrial seed oils. But your colonizing bacteria are also similar to those of the people you live and spend time with. Both of your ecosystems evolve to become similar to one another when you spend a lot of time together. We all know that pathogenic viruses and bacteria are contagious, but so are good ones. And whether you will succumb to the invading forces of harmful bacteria or viruses has a lot to do with your microbiome. Having a flourishing ecosystem of helpful bacteria and viruses make it less likely that a harmful bacterial invasion will be able to overwhelm your defenses. Most people understand by now that the goal, most of the time, isn't to scorched earth style annihilate every germ in our environment like we used to think it was. Antibacterial soaps and mouthwashes generally do more harm than good. Antibiotics have major consequences. Babies who are born C-section and or are not breastfed are disadvantaged because they don't encounter as many microbes in the first minutes and months of their lives. A great deal of our microbiome is inherited from our mother and influenced by our family when we're little. We can even put bacteria to work for us doing the stuff we want. There are innovative new probiotics that can lower your blood sugar, relieve your depression or anxiety, speed up your healing time, and do other cool things. We've also been putting microbes to work for us for thousands of years, fermenting milk into yogurt and cheese and making wine and kombucha and sauerkraut and kimchi and all kinds of cool things. There are some situations where we know about harmful microbes and we need to take actions to protect ourselves. We use flushable toilets and we wash our hands every time we go to the bathroom, and sanitation has saved who knows how many millions of human lives over the years. We know that if something breaks through our defenses, we need to take steps to kill the microbes there. That's usually with a cut or scrape on our skin, but the same would be true, but to a much huger and more emergent degree, if we had an intestinal perforation. We also know to be extra careful with not allowing microbes into our eyes or our ears or our veins, in that injectable medications and eye drops and eardrops must be sterile and pyrogen-free. But there's no need for oral or topical drugs to be sterile. Bacteria and viruses and fungi are usually our friends, but they can absolutely kill us. We can vaccinate ourselves against certain pathogens that we haven't yet encountered in the wilderness of our lives, thereby training our immune system to be able to quickly mount a stellar defense in the event that we need to. We do have a few antibiotics and antivirals to use when we can't clear an infection on our own, thankfully, but the best defense against most infectious diseases is to be a good host to our friendly microbes. The terrain theory of disease. When you've got a healthy ecosystem thriving in harmony, it's less likely that a disease-causing microbe will be able to establish a foothold there and make you ill. Also, we avoid people who are overtly sick and spewing phlegm all over the room, and we wash our hands after touching things that a bunch of snot-nosed little kids have touched. It's just common sense to protect yourself. I'm not a germaphobe at all, and I think it has served me well, but there's something about arcades that always turns me into one, somehow. I rarely took my boys to arcades when they were little, but the few times I did, like for other kids' birthday parties, I always wanted to come home and shower in bleach and put them through a decontamination station of some kind. The idea of them touching all those grimy, sticky knobs and then picking up a piece of pizza and eating it is revolting to me. But I didn't do that, and we're all still alive. And that's like the only thing that freaks me out that I can think of. I mean, if I had to deal with sewage or something, that would be an issue, but thankfully I never have. So, what does all this have to do with our beliefs and habitual ways of thinking? Here's what I've been thinking about lately. I think similes can sometimes help us draw some useful conclusions and help us figure out new ways of seeing or solving old problems. So just like microbes influence every aspect of our experience of life, from how clear our skin looks to how anxious we are, to whether we find Glenn Powell attractive and whether we're on the path to type 2 diabetes, what we believe to be true influences every aspect of our lives. Our lives wouldn't be our lives if we believed something different about the world or about ourselves. Trippy, right? Like microbiota, we can't see our thoughts and beliefs. We could live our whole lives with no idea that they're secretly behind the scenes running the whole show. We innocently come into the world kind of a blank slate, but we're pretty immediately colonized by the beliefs of our immediate family. Just like a human being cannot remain a sterile environment, a human brain cannot remain thought-free. Your mind is made to think, and you can't just turn it off. At least, not for very long. Once we become colonized with beliefs about the world and about what's possible for ourselves, different strains of thoughts all exist together inside of us in a complicated ecosystem. And which beliefs thrive and grow inside us? What views of reality are destined to become our most deeply held core beliefs without us even realizing it? The ones we continually feed. Just like the personal ecosystem of a person who eats a lot of fiber and polyphenol-rich food is different than the ecosystem of someone who eats all simple carbs and deep-fried industrial seed oils, the personal ecosystem of a person who is taught to believe and finds daily evidence that they can do anything they put their mind to and luxury and opportunities are everywhere is very different than that of someone who is taught to believe and finds daily evidence that they don't have a say in what happens to them. Life is unfair, and they deserve less than other people. Just like the bacteria and viruses that live in and on us, our ecosystem changes to match that of the people we surround ourselves with. Other people's colonization patterns changes ours. We cannot exist in a thought vacuum. Ideas and beliefs transfer to us. Within our holobiome, different strains of bacteria communicate with one another and with the energy-producing units inside our human cells, the mitochondria. And our different beliefs communicate within us to shape our personal worldview and mindset, and those influence our energy production. You can't see your microbes, but you can feel and measure their effects. Recognizing beliefs that just seem like facts, but are actually just thoughts, can be even harder. You can buy a microbiological test to assay your levels of different bacteria in your gut. It's a lot harder to get a methodical inspection of your thoughts and beliefs. But what if you could? If you could get a readout of what's always driving you behind the scenes, what do you think it would say? Like your microbial ecosystem, your belief ecosystem can be altered over time. Purposefully feeding yourself high-quality thought ingredients and doing the work throughout the day to find evidence that those thoughts are true gradually changes your operating system, the same way taking probiotics and then keeping those good bacteria alive by feeding them the appropriate prebiotics gradually changes your microbiome. What you believe is possible, what you find enjoyable, what you believe you deserve is shaped over time, and it's what actually creates your reality, not the things outside of yourself. William James said that people tend to become what they think about themselves. In The Big Leap, Gay Hendricks says, "We humans have a long and wonderful history of transcending our beliefs about what's possible. In the early days of the steam-powered train, scientists urged capping the speed at 30 miles per hour because they believed that the human body explodes at speeds greater than that. Finally, some brave people risked going beyond that limiting belief and found that they did not explode. I think we're approximately at that same stage of development with regard to our ability to feel good and have our lives go well." End quote. I love Gay Hendricks. None of us are colonized by the belief that we'll explode if we travel faster than 30 miles per hour. But what else might be living inside us that's keeping us from being more capable? Because it's all behind the scenes, it can be hard to recognize the things in your ecosystem that are limiting your possibilities. But it's worth the effort of trying. Knowing what strains of bacteria are most beneficial to you, like Akkermansia mucinophila, Lactobacillus reuteri, and Bifidobacteria infantis and longum, can help you know what supplements to take and then what to eat on a regular basis to keep those strains healthy so you can reap the benefit of their presence in your body. Likewise, knowing what strains of beliefs will help you create the life you want so you can purposefully affirm them and look for daily evidence that they're true will change the way your life unfolds. Your reality is shaped by what you believe to be true. What if you believed it would make your life better? That it's possible to live more as you get older rather than less? That you're strong? That getting older is fun? That lifting weights is the funnest part of the day? That healthy food is the best tasting and most deeply satisfying? That eating well is actually easy? That you have plenty of time in the day? That you're getting mentally stronger and more sharp with age? That you're a magnet for good things? That people are always helping you? That the best in life is yet to come? That you're constantly and repeatedly pleasantly surprised by life? That you have a lot to give? That discipline is your sexiest attribute? Just like there are tons of probiotics you can take, some of them are pretty innovative, like they actually lower your blood sugar or improve your depression score. Amazing. There are tons of ways you can try to install up-leveled beliefs into your brain. Affirmations, like we talked about in episode 97, positive inquiry, declarations, meditation mantras, and probably some other stuff I'm not thinking of right now. I love affirmations, like we talked about in episode 97, which comes with a free affirmation MP3 download that you can try if you want. The self-questioning process. I still think it's genius, but I do think there is value in some affirmations too. Nate Zinsser talks about them a lot in his awesome book, The Confident Mind, and getting into the felt sense of believing them. I have an app that I really like called Activations. It's kind of like a mix between affirmations and meditations. It's very Stuart Smalley-esque. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. But anyway, I still like it. I do them multiple times a day, every day, and I think that it's helpful. She, the inventor of Activations, whose voice it is that's always telling you're good enough and smart enough, she's big on getting you to imagine what your desired future is and then to notice how it feels in your body and to memorize that feeling so you can call it up at will to help you. Anyway, I don't get anything from telling you that. I just like it. It's set up to be integrated into things you already do in your day, like washing your face, cooking, cleaning, taking a walk, whatever. So after you take your probiotic, you want your new microbes to stick around. So you need to feed them their desired food so that they can continue to stay alive inside of your ecosystem. I think it's incredibly valuable to look for evidence of the things you are wanting to believe are true. If you do that every day, it's like eating pomegranates and organic apple peels for your Akkermansia and eating human milk oligosaccharides for your Bifidobacteria. Just pick one belief that you're trying to up-level and look for evidence throughout your day that it's true. Maybe you'll meet or hear a story about an 80-year-old woman who can deadlift twice her body weight, or has a mind like a steel trap, or hikes with her great-grandchildren. Maybe you'll notice that you actually had a good time for a few minutes at the gym this morning, or that throwing a high-quality lunch together to bring to work was not hard, that bespoke naturopathic healthcare is more affordable than you expected. When you're working on something that you want to believe, but it's a little hard, I think it's so valuable to write down once a day some evidence, no matter how small, that you found that day that that belief is true. Okay, we're taking metaphorical probiotics and we're eating metaphorical prebiotics. What about pathogenic beliefs? We know that both microbes and beliefs are contagious, for better or worse. You know that there are some viruses and bacteria that you want to avoid if possible. Methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, influenza A, H1N1, Clostridium difficile, human immunodeficiency virus. We do things to protect ourselves from coming into contact with those microbes. We wear personal protective equipment. In some cases, we can get inoculated against them. Are there certain beliefs that you know you want to protect yourself from? Getting older is a bad thing. Looking older is a curse. Your worth comes from your appearance. Weightlifting is confusing. The gym is intimidating. The best tasting foods are always the most unhealthy. Your body size matters. I don't have enough time to exercise. I'm not important or assertive enough to get elite level hormone treatment. How might you protect yourself from these beliefs via a vaccination or a protective barrier? Back to Gay Hendricks from The Big Leap again, I think this could be a good protection. He says, unless you're very lucky or very enlightened, you're likely to hear those nattering voices and feel those nagging fears within you. They're part of the deal. I won't try to talk you out of them, and you shouldn't try to talk yourself out of them either. Just notice the voices and feel the fears. That's all you need to do with them. You don't need to rid yourself of them. Where would they go anyway? All you need to do is acknowledge them, wave to them, and let them know you're aware of them. Then get busy learning to live in your zone of genius. End quote. I love it. Pretending they don't exist or trying to argue with them doesn't protect you from them. Just being aware that they exist and that's okay and moving on is protection enough. Wave to them and continue on living your best life. Pretty great. Besides just putting a barrier between you and the worst pathogens, with microbes, we know to be extra vigilant about all microbes in certain life situations. We always wash our hands after going to the bathroom, handling raw meat, and thinking about maybe going inside an arcade. We're okay with sticking our hands in wormy soil and letting the cat lick our knee, but not putting wormy soil into our eye or letting the cat lick our open wound. Some situations require extra diligence. Taking extra care in those situations is good judgment. Here's the most delightful quote for this analogy. This comes from Dr. Nate Zinsser in The Confident Mind. He says, "No one, not the mentally toughest, most confident individual on the planet, is immune to the occasional trip around the sewer cycle." That's so perfect. We're all going to make the occasional trip around the sewer cycle. So we need a practice to wash that flood of unwanted microbes away when that happens. What are the situations when you feel like you need to be more vigilant about your belief hygiene? What are your more vulnerable areas? And when are your barriers breached? I think we need to cleanse our minds of lots of things everyone in society accepts as true. When everyone believes it's normal and inevitable to get cardiovascular disease and dementia, and to be too weak to take care of yourself when you're 80, it's hard to be the one person who doesn't, especially when there are statistics to show that what you're trying to believe is extremely unlikely. When everyone accepts and takes for granted a limiting belief, that's a good signal to metaphorically wash your hands. Another sign of a breach of your barriers is being in a high emotional state. Anytime your emotions are running high, whether it feels positive or negative, you're at an increased risk of muddled thinking. It's not an emergency the way an open laceration getting dipped in sewer would be, but it's another chance to acknowledge that perhaps your natural barrier is compromised, and it's a good opportunity to recognize the nattering voices, wave to them, and then keep on keeping on. While having great strategies and procedures to defend against invasion is critical, like with our holobiome, the best protection is to be a good host, to cultivate good terrain that is the kind of place where good ideas thrive and harmful ones just can't seem to catch a foothold. By cultivating many different beliefs that can coexist in harmony and crowd out the pervasive negativity that pushes you toward a life that's less than what you're really capable of. Every once in a while, you might need a hazmat suit, but most of the time, you just need a collection of small daily habits that keep your thoughts and mindset in a high vibration state. In his book, How Champions Think, Bob Rotella says, "One of the concepts I struggle with when I work with people both inside and outside of sports is reality. My job with such people is to get them to understand and believe that exceptional people create their own reality. The average person won't set a goal unless he thinks and people close to him think that he has at least a 50-50 chance of reaching it. That's what the average person considers a realistic goal. The average person takes account of all the information that's out there saying he can't do something. If, let's say, he thinks about committing himself to becoming the best basketball player he can be and getting a college scholarship, he'll be aware of the fact that maybe one high school player in 30 gets a college scholarship. Since that seems to make the odds a lot worse than 50-50, the average person is likely to give up on that goal before he even commits to trying to reach it, settling for mediocrity in high school and giving up the game thereafter. The exceptional person, the person who does great things, doesn't see things that way. The exceptional person has a vision of great performances, of a great career, of a great something, and doesn't care about what others might say or think. He ignores information that suggests that his dream is unrealistic. He just sets about making that vision a reality. He sees things before others see them. He creates his own reality. Afterward, other people may say to him, "We knew you could do it. We always sensed you were going to be one of the great ones." But that's probably not what he heard in the beginning. In the beginning, he probably heard, "You have to be crazy to think you can do that." End quote. You create your own reality by what you choose to believe. Nate Zinsser says, "Confidence has relatively little to do with what actually happens to you and pretty much everything to do with how you think about what happens to you." Bob Rotella says, "It's almost as if exceptional people belong to a special club. The members know that the average person limits himself. They know that the exceptional person is exceptional in large part because he doesn't limit himself." Thank you so much for being here today and exploring this idea. I hope that the analogy of being colonized by unseen bacteria that control your life and being colonized by unseen beliefs that control your life is useful. Did you think of any situations you're regularly in that might require some increased belief hygiene? Or some ways that you can feed the beliefs that you want to propagate to crowd out the ones that you don't want? And I love that the best way to decrease your colonization with fear, worry, doubt, and low vibration thoughts is just to acknowledge that they're there, wave to them, and carry on with what you are already doing. Next week, we're going to talk about something important almost nobody talks about that decreases with age and how to slow that decrease down and why it matters. Until then, create the conditions for healthy beliefs to flourish and don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.